Welcome, guys. I'm super excited to have everyone here today. I love talking about R. Matt Dancho is a good friend of mine and owner of Business Science. And so today we wanted to take the opportunity I selfishly wanted to take the opportunity to show you some of the code that I've been writing. I'm going to talk about my journey with R. Matt's going to talk about his journey with R. We're going to talk about some strategies to help you learn R fast. And at the end, we have a special offer. Okay, so to kick it off, John asked, what is R and why should I care?
You'll find out.
Native Power BI visualizations, all that I need. Matt, do you want to take that question?
So basically, like, what I would recommend is actually just kind of hang tight and check out the presentation. Power BI is great. I actually used to use Power BI a lot. I did use a little bit of Tableau as well. And those tools are kind of competitors, but they're both, they used to be staples in what I did. R is kind of like, I would call R like Excel on steroids, and you'll kind of see some things that we'll go through in the presentation. Things that you can't do in like a Tableau or Power BI are things like the advanced machine learning, being able to implement that into kind of robust apps that could be client-facing apps or even internally facing apps. So we'll actually show you some examples of that in the presentation, and then you make the decision. See what you think.
All right, awesome. So I'm Kristen Kehrer. I assume everyone here knows me. I started my journey with R in 2004. I recently wrote a blog article about it. And back then, R Studio didn't exist yet. It was just the console. And I spent a lot of time banging my head off the wall, right? And then as the years progressed, there were more packages available. Some packages, there were multiple of them that all did the same thing. And if I used two different packages to do the same thing, I might get different results. And there was no consistent way, I could subset my my column this way, or I could subset a different way. And there was sort of no standardization across what I was doing. And I spent a lot of time banging my head off the wall. And if somebody asked me to explain my code to them, I'd be like, oh, well, I Googled it and I found this and it works, right? And so that was sort of, and, I had no problem. So I've been a data scientist in industry since 2010, and I've used R extensively in healthcare, in e-commerce, but I was always, I could get the job done, but it wasn't, I didn't always understand why I was getting the job done. And it certainly took me longer to get the job done than it should have or could have. And at this time, TinyVerse, so spoiler alert, TinyVerse is sort of the key to being able to learn R quickly in a consistent sort of strong grammar, things make sense sort of way. And as time had gone on, I had seen all the tidy packages coming out. The new, ggplot came out earlier. Maybe that was, when was that?
2014 or 2015, I think.
That late? Okay. But yeah, so that was still 10 years into my R journey, right? And it never really made sense to me. And I could get away with making a lot of, honestly, my workflow looked like I'd make plots in base R. And then if I needed to present to someone, I'd create like a beautiful PowerPoint presentation and remake the chart in Excel, or I'd just try and avoid it. Sometimes I used ggplot, sometimes I was successful, but sometimes I wasn't successful, and it was faster for me at the time to just take my data and I'd use R for building a model, but when I went to go present that to the business, I'd often make it in something else like a Tableau or, one of the just visualization tools. And so a couple weeks ago, I started deciding that I was really going to jump into the TinyVerse, because as time has gone on, too, all the documentation starts to involve piping, that's a TinyVerse thing, right? And I didn't understand this concept of piping, but I knew that, and I actually spent a solid year and a half as a Python girl. I was like, you know what? R's frustrating. I'm just gonna hang out in NumPy and Pandas and get good at Python. And I did get pretty good at Python. But now I'm back to R, and I recently launched a survey. I don't know if you've all seen it going around LinkedIn. Kate Strachny and I are writing a book, Mothers of Data Science, and I was trying to collect data on the demographic and then experience sort of type variables on parents in data science. And so for that, I was able to use the TinyVerse. And so basically what I was doing for this analysis, there was no complex modeling or anything here. I'll just pull this data set back in again. So basically when you get a data set back from SurveyMonkey, your data looks like this once it loads, right? So, here's the ID of all my different people. So each person is a different row. And the first question was, what sort of role are you right now as a data scientist? Are you a data scientist? Are you a manager? Are you pursuing work, not in the field? And then, so that was one question, right? And that was 4 columns. And this is called wide format. And I needed to make this into long format so that I could more easily do my analysis, right? And so you'll see that the functions are really intuitive. So here, gather, I'm basically gathering the column for female, male, and gender fluid, and I'm creating a new column called gender. And so I'm gonna gather those 3 columns and I'm gonna put them in one column called gender, and then it's at the same time creating this value. And basically, so it's creating a new column that's called value. And so every, female 10000 that was there before, and now it's just going to say female, 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 female. And the value is going to say 1 or 0, whether it was filled in or not at that point. So basically, my data set would have been multiplied, the length of it would have been multiplied by 3, but then I can just use an intuitive function again, filter, and say only keep the ones where it equals 1, and then select the minus means remove, then remove that column, right? And so after I did this for my variables, I think I already have that. We'll open it up right here. Right. So now I have a data set that is aggregated in a way that I'd actually want to be able to use this for survey data, for charts and stuff. And this would have taken me a long time just to figure out okay, what functions and in what order do I need to do? And here it's no, I'm going to gather the columns and then I'm going to filter them. And then I'm going to not select that extra one that just got added. And then I'm going to do it again. And it's just intuitive.
Yeah. And I think the key there too is she's not using a whole lot of functions to do this. She's mainly kind of repeating the same types of functions over and over and over. And to get back to that question on Tableau or Power BI, that's not something you're going to be able to do in Tableau or Power BI. This is really where R becomes really powerful, is being able to manage the entire process. Going from start, which is ugly, raw data, lots of NAs, to something that's clean and nice and easy to use. And then you can kind of take it wherever you want to go. If you want to put it in a report, or if you want to put it in a shiny app, or depending on where you want to go.
All right. And then we have one more question, Matt, if you want to answer that. Why is Python considered better for ML than R, even when R is a vector-based programming language and can do calculations better than Python?
Yeah, I mean, so for the long time, R didn't have machine learning packages. To be honest, Python. If you look at like the history of Python, Python got machine learning with scikit-learn a lot quicker than R did. So a lot of times what you get is the reputation, oh, Python's better for machine learning because, you know, that was the story 5 years ago. But right now, if you look at R, it's got this new package called Parsnip. It's got, which is like scikit-learn for R. It's got H2O for machine learning, automated machine learning. It's got all sorts of really good packages, and even has Keras for deep learning. So over time, we're seeing these two languages kind of evolve to be very similar. That just depends on, you know, which language you're more comfortable with, right? So for me, R was better because of the TinyVerse and because I come more from like a business background. But I know for a lot of my friends that are computer scientists or math people, they kind of seem to like to gravitate more towards Python. So it's not that one language is better than the other at, say, machine learning. In fact, R has this cool package now called Reticulate that it can integrate Python right into the language. So if something's not available in R, you can actually just grab it from Python and start to use it and put it right into your pipeline.
And I've actually done that the opposite way. When I was writing in Python and I was building a model to detect seasonality of customers, actually the algorithm that I wanted to use wasn't available in Python because R is historically a stats language. So all the obscure algorithms for statistical modeling, there's like a huge availability there of just like any algorithm you'd probably ever want to use for statistical modeling.
Yeah. So, and I hate to say it, but like once you, like, I would say get good at one and then, but definitely keep your eye on the other because, you know, you're going to do a Google search one day and you're going to be like, you know, I need this. Oh, it's not available in Python. I need it from R. Like if you look at time series for R, way better than Python right now.
Oh, blows it out of the Python didn't even have an auto arima until like 6 months ago.
Yeah. So things like that, like these basic building blocks of time series, for the longest time, Python hasn't had that. So you need to keep your eye on both. But as we see these languages progressing, companies like RStudio are leading the pack, building out. They have like teams of data scientists that are just all they do all day is just build, you know, software because they want R to succeed so badly that they're just, you know, constantly investing in it.
All right, so I was able to share a little bit about my background with R. Matt, do you want to get into your background with R and you had prepared a presentation to share with everybody?
Yeah. Let's do that. We can jump into the presentation, but we can still kind of keep it casual, you know, as people have questions or, you know, we'll kind of take them as we go. All right.
And I'm watching the Q&A, and guys, make sure you don't type any questions in the chat. Type them into the Q&A box. There's a Q&A box on the bottom middle of your screen.
All right. So let me know if you can see that. Can you see my screen, Kristen?
Yep.
Okay. So this is just a 30-minute presentation that I had prepared for you guys today. And it's really something that I've been doing a lot of over the past 2 years, a lot of analysis and trying to figure out how we can streamline the process of learning this previously kind of esoteric language called R. But since you know, as we talked about these things called like the TinyVerse that Kristen had showed you earlier today, it's really become a lot easier. And what I've done is come up with some strategies that I wanted to share with you guys today to give you guys some, things that I've actually integrated into my own systems. We'll talk a little bit about the programs that I put together, but also there's going to be a lot of value in this presentation, things that you can implement right now today, like cheat sheets and some other things. Okay. So a little bit about myself, since many of you may not know who I am. First, my name's Matt. I like Kristen, I've probably been using R for about 10 years or so. And we'll talk a little bit more about my journey here in a minute, because I really do want to emphasize the fact that it was a rocky journey, to say the least. But to get to kind of where I am today, so what I do today, my background is in business consulting. I also do a lot of trainings and workshops. I primarily work with organizations that are in finance and marketing. Here are a few that I'm currently working with: S&P Global, which is a big financial institution, and then MRM McCann, which is a big digital marketing company. I also do a lot with our studio, both just kind of working with their staff. And then also I've done workshops with a company called NVIDIA, who makes the GPUs that are used a lot in deep learning. And I've actually taught at their most recent GTC conference. I did a 2-hour workshop for them, which is kind of, if you're familiar with deep learning, this is like the most advanced conference that is out there today, is the NVIDIA GTC. So I'm also a creator. My background is in business, and what I've done, I'm very passionate about open source. So I actually have developed several R packages, probably the most popular of which is this one right here called TinyQuant. And that's a financial package. It's used by most financial institutions out there. And it's been downloaded about 120,000 times or so. And it's, that's where I got my start. And we'll talk a little bit about that and the piece of my journey that really, why that is such an important thing in kind of my career progression. And then these are a few other software packages that I've made. Sweep is for time series forecasting. TimeTK is for time series machine learning. And then Anomalize is for anomaly detection. And then most recently, over the past couple of years, what I've really focused all of my energy is on teaching data scientists how to become elite data scientists within a business setting. So I started this company, Business Science, and eventually added and focused all of my effort on what's called Business Science University. It's a platform, an educational platform where we teach data scientists the same tools that I use in consulting and R and programming and software development. All of that stuff I teach in this thing called Business Science University. And actually, Kristen is a student now in some of the courses, and we'll talk about those. Okay, so that's just a little bit about me. The way I've structured this presentation, we'll talk first a little bit about my journey. We'll then talk about why it's important to learn R fast. We'll also talk about how to learn R fast, or actually how to learn R in general. And then it's this thing I call climbing the hill. And then I'll give you 3 strategies on how to learn R fast based on all of my analysis that I've done. And then I will end it with a playbook for success. And Chris and I will talk with you a little bit about the Business Science University programs. All right. So my journey, it's been rocky to say the least with learning just programming. And so I had kind of 2 things going against me when I first started. So I was an Excel super user or power user. I used to do VBA all day, every day, which is kind of like programming, but anytime you're using Excel, it's not like super programmy, because it's very kind of like, working in spreadsheets, and how do I get these spreadsheets to make dashboards and things like that I'm going to be able to analyze the business. So when I made my transition, there was these things that were happening out there. And I saw them. I saw R and I saw Python, and but my background was in business, and it was a little bit in finance. One of my personal hobbies was investing. And, I went to make this transition probably like back in the 2000, we'll say 10 to 12, in that range. I'm kind of making this 2-year transition, and it was a struggle. I mean, there's no way to really like say it any other way, right? Back then, we didn't really have the TinyVerse, so that wasn't available to me. I actually started in Python first, and that was just like, I was like spinning, like, Kristen, you talked about banging your head off the desk. That was like so much like coding and all this things. Like I had to learn about like object oriented programming and this and that. And I was just like, I was about ready to give up. So I ended up switching over to R, and I think there was a couple of reasons for it. I saw, some stuff going on with like R Markdown for reporting, and that seemed very interesting because I needed to, working in a business environment, I needed to make reports. That's pretty much what I did. But so as I decided, finally I'm like, I'm going to learn this. And that first week of learning R was just me bashing my head off the desk, being like, why is this language so silly? Like, why doesn't anything match up? Why doesn't, what is grep? Like, I saw this function called grep, GREP, and I'm just like, what the hell is this? So it took me months to learn basic concepts. And once I finally started to get the hang of it, I then tried to apply things to the business, and it wasn't very easy because, everything was done in like I had to look through papers on biology and like actual science papers to figure out how to do like linear regressions. And then about that time, we had this kind of explosion of MOOCs, like online courses. So there was the Udemy's and the Udacity eventually, and then Coursera. And I ended up taking Coursera at that point in time. There was a specialization offered by Johns Hopkins, but I had all of these different options, which sounds like a really good thing. But none of them were really good for what I was doing. I took the Johns Hopkins one. I was about ready to quit that one because what ended up happening and what ended up working for me is about that time, as I was going through and learning, some of these concepts in my spare time, what I was doing was I was trying to figure out how to optimize my personal investments. So I was very into finance. I had, been kind of investing ever since probably about around the 2006 timeframe when I first had my first job and had some disposable income that I wanted to start, playing in the stock market a little bit. Well, while I was learning all of these tools for business and for reporting, I was finding that they also had these packages that were being developed in R called QuantMod and some other ones. And at this kind of point in time, around the 2015 timeframe, they came out with dplyr and this TinyVerse, but they didn't mesh. So I got this really crazy idea. Like, we've got these functions and packages that are currently in R, but they aren't in a tidy format. They don't work well with this new thing called the TinyVerse that was being developed. So I came up with the bright idea. Why don't I just integrate the two? Because I was constantly switching back and forth between the two different kind of competing classes, data frame, and then also there's this object called an XTS. And if you've never heard of R, don't worry about it. It's just these. If you haven't ever heard of what an XTS object is, don't worry about it. It's not really that important. It's just I was having to go back and forth. So I got the bright idea to create this R package, and it was through that process of identifying a need, which was my own personal need, and then getting the guts to start creating an R package, which I had never done before, and just kind of learning through doing these projects that I was really passionate about and I was excited about. And I learned more about programming in R than through any course that I've ever taken, just through this one single project, which ended up becoming this thing called TinyQuant. And, I'm really glad I did it, because that's really how my open source career got started. And it's something that, is kind of ingrained in my blood. I'm really passionate about giving back to the data science community, because I've learned so much from the community that this was kind of my, passion project that I'm giving back to everyone else. So I created this R package, and it's kind of taken off a life of its own. So it's now being used by most major organizations out there that work with finance. So like the JP Morgans, S&P Globals, any of these companies that are using R, a lot of them are using TinyQuant. So it's just kind of crazy when you think about it. The other thing that helped was in creating this R package, I got some exposure that I was able to convert into some consulting gigs. And at first it was just kind of like onesie twosie here and there, but eventually I worked myself up to being to being able to work with actual Fortune 500 companies and some big names. And this is kind of the thing that I think that business science brings to the table, is that my background, it's non-traditional. It's not like, hey, I'm teaching you computer science. What I'm teaching and why I have a value to give to you as a student is because of this consulting experience that that's based on real world experience, actually working with companies and actually doing the projects. I currently have one project going on right now consulting wise, and I think that that's something I'll never give up, just because it's kind of like keeping a pulse on, what are real problems that businesses are facing, and how do we best educate students to be able to solve those problems. So long story short, it wasn't the courses that really saved me. It was getting the project that I was really passionate about. And now what my current job is to be able to help you, the student, become an elite data scientist, someone that is very comfortable and knows all of the skills and knows how to make value generating products for your organization. So that's what I focused on. Why did I get out of consulting, which is a common question I get? I was having a really good time doing it, but it's always like the deal, you're working one-on-one with a company and you're only able to help so many companies. But what I was really having more fun doing was actually working with their analytics teams and their data scientists that they began to hire. And I really recognized that this gap existed between the data scientists and the organization. Like, it was very difficult. Like, really, I found myself kind of being in the middle and kind of teaching them how to communicate and teaching them what the business was really interested in. And that's kind of what I call bridging the gap, which is part of becoming a very powerful data scientist, is being able to understand what the company wants, right? And figuring out a way to generate value. So that's my new job. I was having a lot of fun doing the consulting, but I was having even more fun teaching data scientists and pretty much working myself out of a job in the process. So why learn R fast? R is really powerful. There's also Python that's out there, and there's other tools too. But for me, R was the best because of my background, and my background was more business focused rather than computer science focused. So why is it so critical about speed though? I was chatting with my buddy David Curry, and if you don't know David, he's a co-host with me on our Learning Labs, the Business Science Learning Labs program. And these are just labs webinars that we give once every 2 weeks for just for the open source community, the data science community. And I was chatting with him yesterday, and he made this really interesting kind of statement. And he's like, I started back my career, this is David's career, in software development in the 90s. And back then he was, just a young gun, just kind of, learning software, learning how to make websites, do programming. And it was kind of like the Wild West. And he's like, we're data scientists right now. It reminds me a lot of like where software development was back then. And he then kind of proceeded to explain a little bit about the history of software development. He said, the 90s, it was like anyone could get a job, as long as you had a product, which for a software developer, it was like a website. And then if you had skills to back that product up, prove that you could develop those types of things, then a company clearly saw, oh, I want that product, and here's the person that's going to be able to give that to me. But that, and Kristen, you've had similar experiences too, or folks, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I have a friend who is doing really well in web development, and he got in the 90s, and he only has a high school diploma. But actually, when I think about my own experience in data, so I got my first job out of school, and 2 years later, I decided I wanted to make a move, and I found this analytics consultant position on Craigslist that involved modeling and working in R and a little bit of Python. And I didn't know SQL, but I just emailed the company and I said, hey, I don't know SQL, but I'm competent and I can learn. And the following week I had a job interview. I went in and interviewed with everyone. And then, I met with who would then become my boss at the end of that interview. And he was like, do you have any other questions? And I was like, no, make me an offer and I'll accept it. And they sent me upstairs to HR and printed me out an offer right then and there. And nice. I didn't know SQL. My R skills were like crap. But
but you handled the interview perfectly, right?
So like over the last couple of years, I'm sure it's, changed a little bit, but at the same time, there's still a huge demand and people are still trying to figure out exactly, companies are still trying to figure out exactly what is it that makes a great data scientist.
Right. And the thing is like we're in a transition period. So it's kind of like the Wild West for data scientists right now, kind of like what it was back in software development in the 90s. So in the 2000s, it quickly changed. So after the dot-com, bubble, and, companies had more time to understand and kind of be more selective. And nowadays it's like you need degrees, you need certifications, you need experience, we don't ever hear of, the college dropouts anymore. It's all about like, hey, how are these people getting their starts? Well, they're having to go through and get all of these, degrees and certs and have experience before they're getting a job. Data science will eventually get to that place, but at least for right now, we're kind of like what software was in the 90s. We're able to take advantage of this wave, which is like a gold rush, and because it's so critical to every organization on the planet to be able to handle their data and to be able to make decisions that are critical to the business. So the companies are seeing the value in it, and they're just trying to get data scientists quickly so they can maintain and even build a competitive advantage. But it will eventually change. So that's why we wanted to learn things quickly, these new skills. And R is really nice because unlike Python and unlike some of these other languages, it doesn't take very long to learn it nowadays. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Two quick things. To be successful, it's the same thing as what David was talking about with software engineering. You need a product that you can sell, and you need a skill, the skills to back up that you built that product. So what am I talking about with a product? Well, now it's data products. This is what companies want. They're contracting consultancies. They're demanding to be able to have predictive analytics products. these web interfaces, what they call them web applications, and you need to be able to integrate machine learning into them, and that's your product, because that helps them solve these massive problems and integrate insights into their decision making. So the other key piece is you have to have the skills to do that, and you get that from this thing that I'm going to share with you today. It's called the data science workflow, and I'm going to show you kind of how it works and show you where R fits into that piece. So I'm going to show you the product first, and I'll just do like a quick demo. So if I pull up my RStudio session, I actually have this app running right now, and I'm just going to click this button here. So this is built in R. So this is, if you're not familiar with R, this is the integrated development environment called RStudio, and I have this this piece of code here. This is all the code that builds this app. So I actually have it running right now locally, and I'm going to click this button and pull it up. And what this is it looks like just your normal sales dashboard. And every company has a sales dashboard. So if you aren't able to, drill into different customers and, understand trends, then you're really, as a company, you're really far behind. But this application does something interesting. It actually has this little toggle here where you click it on and you can make a forecast with it. And this is really important because it's called the demand forecast. And this forecast of sales affects every part of the organization, from manufacturing, how many, from purchasing, how much raw materials do you buy that month? How much, for manufacturing, how many people do you have on staff, hourly employees to be able to build the products? It always run off of the forecast. And then even sales, which customers are doing what we thought they were going to do, or what is the expectation for this month. So the nice thing about this is that you can actually drill into specific customers. So I'm actually drilling into this company here called Kansas City 29ers. I'm going to hit the apply button, and it's going to come up with a forecast for me. So almost no company can do this very fast and very well, because the technology is so new with machine learning. And this is actually run by an algorithm called XGBoost. And to be able to add this to your company, the company is going to be drooling over it, because they want this, they need this. It's so important to that company. Getting the forecast wrong or improving that forecast can save your company millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. No joke. So this is actually, one of the apps that we build in the program, and I'll talk a little more about that later. But so that's an example of the product. So you want to be able to provide that to your organizations, and here's the process to get there. So this is how you build your skills. In order to be able to build that product, you need to have skills. It starts with a business problem. So for us, it could be, better predicting demand. The issue is that they're forecasting using a 3-month rolling average, and it's off the mark. They're constantly having too much raw materials in inventory, constantly having overstaff or understaff. So they want to improve that. So you would tackle that. So that's your business problem by acquiring data. So you'd acquire sales data, and then you'd have to have a way to format and clean that data. So like what Kristen was showing you in the beginning of this talk. How do I gather that data? How do I filter it? How do I, mutate it? How do I do this and that? And that's what we call data preparation. So that's the first phase. The next phase, then, once you get that data into a usable format, you can start to do experimentation. You can hypothesize, hey, what if we add in, some other variables that may impact our sales information? What if we impact, which quarter or what if we add in which quarter of the year and which day of the month that we're making this forecast? And we can see, what is influencing the accuracy of our forecast. Then we can transform and visualize data. And then we can model it using machine learning or other techniques. And then it's kind of an iterative process, right? Because you're not always going to have the best model and be ready to kind of, build an app out of it. It's going to be going back, talking with the people in your organization, making sure you got the facts straight, making sure you really understand that business problem. And then sometimes you're even going to have to get more data. So you might actually even have to go to the beginning and then, come up with new pipelines to process your data. And then you get to the point where you've got a nice model, and then you're able to move into what I call distribution. So this is making reports, communicating results to your stakeholders, getting their approval to build MVP, which is a minimum viable product app, and then eventually deploying that app once everyone's bought into it to production. And that's where you start to generate business value. So that's the process, this data science workflow. And that's what you have to be confident in doing and comfortable doing as a data scientist. So where does R fit in? So as Kristen and I were talking about, R has this really cool set of tools that have been developed. And a lot of these have been really improved just in the past year or 2 years. It's this thing called the TinyVerse, which is a bunch of different R packages that I have shown here. And then Plotly is kind of another package that I lump in for interactive plotting. And then these are your machine learning packages here. So you've got H2O, you got this other package that's really cool called Parsnip, which is like the scikit-learn for R. You got recipes for creating pre-processing recipes. And then down here you've got for deployment, your R Markdown, which is for creating reports. So think like PDF reports that you would hand your boss. And then Shiny, which is for creating web apps. So it's really this amazing tool chain for end-to-end data science. And what does that look like if we go back to our workflow? So at the beginning here, we can start to add packages over these different areas. So you've got readr for reading in data. You've got some of the packages for dealing with data. So this is dplyr. So that gather function that Kristen was using at the beginning and the filter function, those come from dplyr and tidyr. And then there's for working with text, you've got stringr, time series as lubridate, and then categorical is forcats. So that's kind of in the preparation stage. You're formatting and cleaning data with those packages.
Guys, and even write these packages down, because literally if you were trying to go through all the R packages that exist, there's so many and it's overwhelming.
It's like 15,000 now. Yeah.
There's 15,000. Yeah.
It's
and
crazy.
Here we're talking about like 10, so like take notes.
Yeah. And we'll do even better. So Kristen, you're going to send out an email, right? Why don't we just give them the slide deck? We'll give them the slide deck too that they can have.
Okay, that works.
But still take notes. Definitely take notes. So now you're in the experimentation phase. There's nothing really for hypothesis. And that's why you're a data scientist, right? Because you're trying to digest problems. You're trying to work with the business leaders and the people on the front lines that are dealing with customers or working in manufacturing. You're trying to understand, and shape this problem. And then once you know what you want to do, at that point you have tools to do it. So you've got for visualization, ggplot2 and Plotly for interactive visualizations. And I use these two packages a ton. And then in the modeling, these are my favorite packages. H2O, which is automated machine learning. When I was consulting on a regular basis, I was using this for about 80% of my consulting projects. No lie, it was just the automated machine learning was really helpful in getting very high accuracy machine learning models very quickly. And then Parsnip was really good. That's a newer one that just came out here recently. And then there's a package down here for iteration. So when you're doing this iteration, you can use this package called Per to automate that process. And then in the distribution end, you've got R Markdown for reporting, and then you've got Shiny for deploying. Okay, so this kind of what I've done is taken that same visualization and then I've added on top here a web app. So what the business sees when you deploy a web app is just something that looks like this. And this is for an HR problem where they're analyzing employee attrition. They don't see what's running under the hood. And that's what you as a data scientist is doing. You're using Shiny and you're integrating, some code for dplyr to make this table here. And you're integrating this package called Lime to create this featured contribution plot. And then you're using H2O to create an algorithm that indicates for this particular employee, number 891, that they're 47% at risk of leaving the company. So the organization never realizes that. That's if you're doing good as a data scientist, then they will never understand, that machine learning is even being used underneath the hood. What your goal to do, though, is to integrate what you know about these core packages to build this deliverable, this product, this data product that you can then scale to all of the managers in your organization that deal with employees and need to prevent them from leaving the company. And then if you do a really good job as a data scientist, you'll track how the performance is doing. And what you should see is things like this: costs going down, revenue going up, and then the value that you're providing to that organization. So that's what you'll end up doing. And that's the power of building a data product. So this sounds like a lot, though. I'm sure, like, if I was sitting fresh, and I'm sure many of you are, who, if you have no experience with R before, you're probably like, holy crap, this sounds like a lot of work. And I'm not going to discount it. I mean, it's definitely, you got to be committed to learning R, but it's a lot easier than what you think. And I'm going to kind of draw a parallel to climbing a hill. So when you learn R nowadays, there's a process that you can follow. And if you start with the basics of learning the essential data cleaning and manipulation, which is what you're going to do, as probably 80% of your data science job is going to be cleaning data and getting those NAs out of the survey data, using the filter, using the gather, trying to figure out how to get that data in the right format so you can begin to visualize it. And the good data scientists are really good at this part of it. So that's the first step, being able to work with data, being able to work with text, being able to work with time series and categorical data. Then the next step is being able to build these visualizations. So these are, some advanced visualizations, things like a customer heat map. You need to be able to build that if you want to be able to showcase and really explain, what your algorithms are doing. And then also, when you're developing your hypothesis, a lot of times it's useful to just visualize data and explore that data. Then you'll need to learn how to build functions and do a little bit of programming and some modeling, some basic modeling, so you can identify whether or not the features that you have are worthless, or if they're going to be able to go into modeling and have some success. And then that's when you use that's when you're ready to do the advanced data science. And you learn things like H2O and like Parsnip for machine learning, and really be able to develop these high performance models that can actually improve the results of your business. And then the final stage is then you start learning these things like R Markdown for reports and Shiny for building these data products, these web apps. So that sounds like a lot, and it is, but that path to the top can actually be accomplished very quickly. It doesn't take years like it took me anymore. You can do it in weeks. I'm going to show you how. All right. 3 strategies. And this is the crux of my argument here. You can actually learn R very quickly if you stick to 3 strategies. So that first strategy is what's called the 80-20 rule. And if you've never heard of the 80-20 rule, it basically says that 20% of something is going to create 80% of the results. So whether you're learning R programming or if you're learning Japanese, it doesn't matter. If you learn the 20% of the language that is most frequently used, that's going to create 80% of your results. So that's how you're able to compress, maybe learning R programming from a year into a month by learning the key things. And I'm going to show you what the key things are. So I did this analysis I guess we're in 2019 now. So yeah, about a year ago, I did this analysis where I analyzed one of the data scientists I was following at the time. His name's David Robinson, and he's like a legend in R programming. He has this blog called Variance Explained, where he did all sorts of interesting analyses, and he put the code out there so people could actually reproduce what he was doing. And it's kind of the same thing I do on the business science blog. For business analysis is what he was doing for kind of like baseball statistics, or just like all sorts of just crazy problems that he was coming up with. And so what I decided to do was I decided to do some web scraping. And what web scraping is you actually use the HTML that's on his website, and I iterated through all of the different pages of his blog articles, and I grabbed all of the text out of there, and I kind of pared it down to just the code. And then what I did was I analyzed which functions he was using from that code, using actually R programming to analyze his functions. And what the analysis told me was exactly which functions he was using the bulk of the time. So it's the 80-20 rule, right? So one of the analyses that I did was, okay, over time, because each of his blog articles had a timestamp to them, so I could lump them all into halves of the year. So at the beginning of 2015, I analyzed his code, and he was using about 37% of functions that were from these packages here, which is called the TinyVerse. So these packages. And then what I saw, though, is as he was blogging more and more, he started to use the TinyVerse more and more. And there's a reason. There's probably several reasons for it, right, Kristen? Like new things were coming out, new packages, making it easier. You know, things that used to take 50 lines of code now only took 20 with the TinyVerse. So you kind of see this path. So what that tells me is, as a data scientist, you should be focusing on the TinyVerse. If you're learning R, you shouldn't be focusing on learning, just, some of the other 13,000 packages, right? So, and I don't know, Kristen, was that your experience?
Well, so for me, I saw the TinyVerse packages coming out and never adopted them because I didn't know that world. And then I took your course, and then, now I'm not going back. And it's always been my experience that as, because it's not like I haven't leveled up in ways over the last 10 years that I've been doing data science. But in general, yes, the packages that come out make your life easier. So I wasn't specifically using these. I'm very glad that I'm now using these because they're, again, making my life easier. But, data science itself is just getting a lot less manual.
Yeah. And the tools are becoming way easier to use. And I think that's, I think both Kristen and I share that experience. And as I've been learning more and more, it's just so powerful, the things that you can do so quickly now. So that's kind of what this graph is showing you. I also analyze specifically as to package by package, where most of the functions that David Robinson was using. And what it showed me was most of his functions were either coming from base R. So when you just install R, these are the functions that come kind of out of the box. And these are things like mean and sum and, like median, those types of functions. And then he had a lot that were coming from dplyr. So you see this over the time frame, this upward trend. And then ggplot2, which stayed pretty consistent, although some articles he did a lot more visualization than others, and that's what ggplot2 does. But you can see that really it's these three areas that were the most frequently used by D-Rob. So it's really, that leads me to believe, three things that you need to learn: base, dplyr, and ggplot2. And then this graphic kind of confirms that as well. This is just a frequency or it's just kind of the percentage of each function here and which package those functions belong to. So 7.39% of DRob's functions that he uses is this library function from base R. And then the next one is the next most frequently used is from ggplot2. It's this AES function. So blue is base, red is ggplot2, and green is dplyr. And we can see in this chart, there's a heck of a lot of blue, red, and green going on. So that tells me learn these. And an interesting thing happens when you learn just those two packages, dplyr and ggplot2, you're able to create really complex visualizations like this one, which is a heat map that I teach in the 101 course. It's an advanced visualization that showcases customer purchasing habits. And you can see that you've got your customers here on the left, you've got the products here down below, you've got a product category of mountain bikes and road bikes, and you can see that certain customers have dark spots, and you can see that they're buying a lot more road bikes than other customers like this one who's buying a lot more mountain bikes. So cross-country race is a mountain bike style. So you're able to do a lot of very impactful visualizations and data understanding just with these two packages alone, let alone any of the machine learning and other things that you could possibly want to know. All right, so that was strategy number one. Strategy two is speed up your learning. And how we do that is we do that with cheat sheets. So the crazy thing that I started to do when I was analyzing all of this stuff. So I'm going to actually show you a website right here, and I want you guys to go here. So I created this thing called the Ultimate R cheat sheet. And what I was finding as I was doing my analysis, years ago before I did the 101 course that is now that kind of implements all these best practices, is if you download this cheat sheet, and I actually have it downloaded already. I keep it in my files right here. It's in my resources. This is what it looks like. So it's 3 pages. And what people have done is for each package, they've made cheat sheets for the actual package. So what I did was I made kind of like a high level cheat sheet that linked to all of the cheat sheets. So all the package level cheat sheets. So this resource that I want to give you guys is what I call the Ultimate R cheat sheet. And it links to all of the different R libraries that I use 80/20, and it links to all of their cheat sheets. So if I right click this and open it in a new link, what that does is that opens the ggplot cheat sheet. So what you can do is you can focus. This is your 80/20 right here. These are, like on the first page, this is the functions you need to learn about that R package in order to be like really good with it. If I wanted to learn dplyr, I do the same thing. Just right click, open in a new tab, and then this is the dplyr cheat sheet. So I need to know filter. I need to know things like pull and select. I need to know mutate. So this is the 80/20 at work. So really, like, what you want to do is you want to speed up your learning. And the second strategy is using this thing that I created called the R cheat sheet. And here's the link right down here. You just go to the Business Science website /R-cheat sheet, and it'll pop right up. You can download it. All right. Third thing that's going to help you. And this is the third and final strategy. Do projects. So my experience now. I didn't learn from courses, and which is kind of counterintuitive because I now teach through courses, but my courses are a little bit different. We'll talk about that in a second. It's because we do projects. And the thing that will help you grow the most is applying your data science, the thing that you're learning, to projects that help the business or that are related to a passion of yours. So if you do that, you're going to learn data science very fast. And it's not going to be something that happens overnight, but you need to build things like these, like the dashboard. This is that data product, right? The thing that you're going to, walk into your next interview if you're looking for a data science position and you're going to show them as part of your portfolio, or the thing that you're going to show your boss when you want to say, hey, there is a better way and I can help you out with this forecasting problem that you guys are having. And it's through, this algorithm, and here's a dashboard that's sort of like what I think we can implement for our company. So let's just real quick recap the strategies. Apply the 80-20 rule, and those are learning which functions are the highest impact. And I've done that. There's an article that I wrote. We'll give you the links as part of the slide deck. You can check that out, and that tells you which ones are really important. But you can also just use the Ultimate R cheat sheet, because that links to every single cheat sheet that you're going to need to know. And when you go to those package level cheat sheets, those have the 80-20 functions right in them. And then the third piece is, if you do projects, you're going to build a portfolio of data products. So the final piece here that I want to talk with you about today is a playbook for success. So you could do this on your own, and it'll probably still take you about a year, because it just takes a while. It may even take you longer if you want to learn machine learning and shiny web apps and everything like that. So what I've done over the past 2 years is develop these courses that integrate all of these best practices into helping you build data products that matter to your organizations. So that's really what I bring to the table is if you need mentorship, and if you need a clear path that gets you from where you are now to, in 2 months or 3 months, being an elite data scientist, then that's what I can help you with. So the 3 strategies are all integrated into this. We've got the data products. So learning, climbing the hill is part of the courses, and we'll see that. And the ultimate goal is to end up with data products. You're going to build several data products as you go through these courses. So the courses that I have to offer there's 3 right now, and there's a 4th one on the way, which will complete what I call the R track. And it starts with the 101 course, which is a 7-week course where we teach the foundations. So this is the TinyVerse, and it's teaching you all of the basics: time series, text, feature engineering, visualization. It's the course that Kristen actually took. And it taught, the TinyVerse in a way that it just makes it super easy to pick up.
And it's called Foundations in Business Analysis, but there was 5 hours of modeling in Parsnip. Yeah.
And it also teaches machine learning as well. And actually, I think the next slide has some of the details about it. So it's got like 8 hours of video lessons just on clustering and regression techniques, 2 challenges. It's got XGBoost in there, all sorts of machine learning algorithms in there, decision trees, random forests, linear regression, elastic net, support vector machines. They're all in there, plus a lot more. So that's the foundations. So you start with that, and then you can kind of springboard. You can go to the 201, which is the advanced course. And what this does is it teaches you advanced machine learning and business consulting, my specialties. It teaches you through one project, which may sound like, oh, what the heck? I'm spending 10 weeks on one project. But here's the kicker. That one project solves the organization it's a $15 million problem. So if you solve one of those for your organization, you basically funded your data science team indefinitely, and anything else you solve is just bonus for that organization. So what I do is I teach this framework that I actually use when I consult with companies, and it's called the Business Science Problem Framework. And what it does is it steps, each way through the project is like a different step, a different phase in the in this consulting framework. And it's really cool. So you take this problem, which is an employee attrition problem, $15 million per year, and then you step through it. The first week you're just understanding the business. You're using a lot of visualization and a lot of dplyr to make advanced visualizations. And then the next week is exploratory data analysis. And then you get into pre-processing the data for getting ready for machine learning and doing correlation analysis to make sure you've got good variables. And then you get into the really cool stuff, which is automated machine learning with H2O and feature explanation with Lime. These are, when I was consulting and I was using H2O and Lime almost in every single project I was using. And it was just amazing. Getting insights, you're developing highly predictive models in, just maybe an hour, half an hour of analysis. And these are things that was taking me days or weeks to build before. And then Lime, which is for gaining the insights, because businesses, predicting something's really good, but you also need to back it up with the explanation of why is something happening. And that's what Lime gets you. So it gives you the why, the story behind the prediction. So that's what you do in this course, really useful. And then once you get the data science under your belt, then it's building web apps. And this is what Kristen's building. I know she's going to show us at the end a special bonus.
I'm excited.
I'm crossing my fingers. I hope so.
It works. It works.
Yeah. Good. I'm excited.
So to be honest, guys, I started Matt's course on Sunday. And the app that I'm showing you today is something that, I just accessed the course on Sunday.
Two days.
This is how far I've gotten. And
3 days.
Yeah. It sounded cooler when it was 2 days, but actually 3.
And it's amazing. I mean, the tool set, the tool chain is there, and it's just, all the courses do is give you that vehicle to speed up that process. So that way you don't have to take years and years like I did to learn and bang in your head. It saves you, your forehead some pain because you aren't going to be banging it off the table as much. And really that's what you're doing. So this is just a little more detail about the course. I'm not going to belabor it, but the 101 is 25 hours on fundamentals. You go through everything, and it's actually taking 2 projects. So there's a product pricing and a customer segmentation. And when my students start the course, that's kind of the deliverable. At the end of the course, we have to deliver 2 reports. One report is on helping the R&D department and marketing department understand gaps within the products and how to price products more effectively inside of those gaps. And you use regression to do that. And then the second one is customer segmentation. So when I consult with companies, a lot of them want to know how to do customer segmentation. And that's what we teach you. So that helps the marketing department, more effectively group their customers into buckets so they can, better target customers groups with certain emails that are more engaging and result in higher sales from those from those customers. So through that process of learning of tackling these projects, you have to learn R. And that's what I teach you. And I use the cheat sheets to do that. The 201, just to reiterate, it's following this framework. You get it's solving an end-to-end churn project is what you're doing, which is a binary classification. It's the most impactful type of project that you're going to do for your businesses, are what we call binary classification. Is something going to happen? Yes or no? Is a customer going to leave? Yes or no? Is an employee going to leave? Yes or no? Am I going to have enough products in inventory to service our customers? Yes or no? These are all examples of binary classification, and that's what you learn in the 201 course. Again, you follow my framework. This is the same consulting framework that I use with my clients. It's really good, and it's more a communication tool than anything, but it gives you a repeatable process that you follow every step, every project. If you follow this, you make sure nothing's missed, and it actually helps the stakeholders that you're going to be communicating with know where they have to be part of your process. And a lot of machine learning, H2O, AutoML, we already talked about that. And then the last 3 weeks are return on investment. So actually providing an ROI to your company with data science. Okay, and then the web apps course, you're going to do 2 web apps in this course. And then there's also a 4th course coming, which will be 2 more apps as well. So all said and done, if you take this 4-course system, and there's 3 courses that are available right now, you're going to do a lot of machine learning. You're going to get your foundations. And then on top of that, you're going to have data products for your portfolio, or data products that will actually help your company that you can just kind of copy and then reconfigure for your organization. And in fact, you're even going to be able to do better than that. You're going to be able to build your own data products, your own web apps. So there's 2 in this course, and then there's another course coming. Once that next course is released, you're also going to be able to do these expert apps as well. So this is reducing employee churn. This is optimizing financial portfolios, and that one's coming soon. These are the 2 that are available right now in the 102 course, demand forecasting and product price optimization. And then this will be you with your data science team. I made these. Your name here. Okay, that was kind of cliche, but at the end of the day, one of the reasons that students succeed in my program is because they have access to me, the instructor, and they also have access. I don't know if you can see this number here. 374. There's 374 students just in this Ask the Professor channel, and these are students. Like Friday, June 21st, this one, Phil Bailey, he asked me a question, and we help immediately. We're giving him responses. And what this does, and why I'm showing you this, is it prevents failure. So when you start learning, and I don't care if it's my program or any program, you're eventually going to run into questions. And what we don't want to have is you get stuck on a pain point, and that causes you to give up because you don't have a resource to get your questions answered. So one of the benefits of going with Business Science University is the Slack channel and being able to have access to me, and being able to ensure your success. So that way you're not just hung out there to dry. You're going to be able to get your questions answered when you need to. All right, so that's what I had to present to you today. Just quickly recap. I'm big on recaps. So we talked a little bit about my journey today. We talked about Kristen's journey too. We don't want you to suffer the same problems that we had, and we want you to have a better solution. And I wanted you to know that it exists with Business Science University. We talked about why to learn R fast. You know, if you watch Game of Thrones, and I'm gonna throw this quote out there. This is even more cliche. It's like winter is coming, right? So eventually, it's going to become tougher and tougher to become a data scientist. There's going to be more competition, and companies are going to require the bar to be much higher than what they are today. And not to say that we aren't teaching you the right things. Why my program exists is I'm teaching you all of the right things in a compressed time frame. And that's why I can help you learn R fast. Learning R is like a hill climb. So, you're going to have to be committed, but that hill doesn't need to take you years. It can take weeks. You can start. The funny thing is, you're like Kristen, how she said she started the course on Monday, and by Wednesday, she's got a functioning Shiny app. That is not uncommon. My students are applying what they're learning that quickly. The first hour that they're taking the course, they're learning things that they're able to apply directly to their jobs. 3 strategies. We talked about 3 strategies, 80-20 tools, the cheat sheets that I've put together. We're giving you those for free. And then doing projects. And if you don't have any project ideas, that's why the courses are there for you. We have pre-selected very high impact problems that your organization will care about. So if you do these projects and create that portfolio and show these to your organization, you're certain to have something that's going to interest them. And it's going to be fun for you in the process. So, and then the last thing that we ended up was the 3-course system, soon to be 4 courses, but that's basically your playbook for success. We take all of the best practices from my consulting experience, from the mentorship, from the structure of the courses, and just being able to compress that into one condensed package for you, and that's your playbook. So what I am here to tell you is that Kristen and I have prepared a special offer for you, and it's something that we really want you to take advantage of. Again, these are getting results that are surely going to surpass your expectations. And I challenge you, we have a 30-day money-back guarantee that if you are anyway unsatisfied with the courses, you can get your money back. But I think, and I'm a betting man, and I'm betting that you're going to like them. So we've got the 3-course system that's available for $919 with a special exclusive 20% off discount code that Kristen has available to you. And
I just put that in the chat.
Okay, and here's the kicker though, guys. It's a time-sensitive offer, so you're gonna have to make a decision quickly. But we're gonna give you two days. I think Saturday is when it expires, and it'll go back to the normal price. But here's the thing: you're not gonna regret it. And we've got another special thing, is that we also have payment plans as well. So if your budget is $200 a month, we've got a payment plan that fits that budget. So this is the 6th low monthly payment of $187 per month. You get that taken care of in 6 months, and you've got those courses for lifetime. You've got access to the mentorship for lifetime. Any upgrades, anything that new that I put into the courses, you have that for lifetime. So that's pretty much it. I don't know if there's
besides my Shiny app.
Well, my part of the presentation is done. Now we've got the special for you, which is Kristen has the Shiny app that she built in how many days, Kristen?
We decided it was 3.
3 days. 3 days. All right, I'm gonna stop.
So my experience with Shiny has been, I took one workshop at ODSC. It's like a 3-hour workshop, right? And you end up with like one chart, not formatted, and it's interactive, right? And it uses like the MT Cars data set. And so, a toy data set, nothing to like write home about, but honestly, I'm going to put this up on my website. So I'm going to share this right now. Okay, so here's my code, and I'm going to run this, and it pops up. Is everybody excited for this?
I am. I saw it already.
Oh no, I gotta fix the formatting there. Crap!
Oh no.
But anyway.
It wouldn't be a demo if something, if a curveball comes.
If it works. Here, open it up in the browser. Maybe it'll be fixed there. Yeah, okay.
Sweet.
And so this is the parents of data science data that I was showing you some of the R code in the beginning that I had to transfer it from wide to long, which is something I learned in Matt's course. And then every single piece of this I learned in Matt's course. And some of my favorite highlights from the survey is that 52% of females who say that their spouse handles at least half or more of the home baby responsibilities, right? So this survey was for men and women who are data scientists and also parents. And I was also really excited to get 47% women in the survey, since we know that women are in general underrepresented in tech. And I thought it was really sweet that men want a longer parental leave. But so these graphs will, the gender doesn't really make as much sense now that I've grouped it, but I can go and change this and look at, the year comparison and make sure that, if I look at salary and I see that there's a big difference in salary, I'm going to want to say, okay, wait a second, is the years in field different, and sort of back into those different things. And then there was a lot of behavioral questions, like I asked, how long was your maternity leave? Did you get paid for it? Did you wish your maternity leave was longer? Have you ever declined a promotion to help with your work-life balance? And so this app, I'm eventually going to make it on my, it's going to be up on my website so that people can play with the data once I'm done with it. But I'm only 3 days in, so this isn't done yet.
It's amazing though. I mean, what you're able to accomplish, like that's 3 days from starting the course, guys.
Yeah, no kidding. No, seriously. So I took Matt's first course to learn just the TinyVerse or whatever. And that was maybe 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, you have not been paid.
And then I wrote a blog. I posted a blog about the course like a week or two ago. And then, yeah, like I'm so proud of myself. And I'm expecting a new client contract to come in. So I'm going to be taking on some client consulting work. And like from now on, everybody is getting a Shiny app as their deliverable. Like absolutely. Like, so I'm going to be building a model. It's like a refrigeration problem, working with the temperatures and being able to alert people when the temperatures aren't right, and also sort of forecasting for them. And I'm going to put it in a Shiny app. And from now on, everyone's getting a Shiny app. And I feel like I have learned so much in the last couple weeks or whatever since I've really dove into this. It's a completely different world for me. And, to people who have seen Fabio and I on Data Science Live, that like I don't normally push products. I have my own courses and I don't like push them, but I really wholeheartedly believe in, the structure of this course, that it covers everything and made things so much more clear. Like it's really been incredible.
One of the things I can tell just from listening to you, Kristen, is you feel empowered. Like I am. Now, like every client now is getting a Shiny app. Like,
yeah,
that's a bold thing to say. And before, and that separates you from like every other consultant that's out there too, because they're not able to do it.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for making wonderful courses.
Well, it's my pleasure. I hope to see a bunch of y'all in there. And I think it's going to be a great thing for your career too. I don't know. I'm just happy. I'm excited for y'all.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming today. Like Matt said, I'm going to be sending out the slides and this recording through email. So you'll get those. And if you don't have the links with the 20% off, I'll also make sure to send those out as well. So,
yeah, the resources too, the cheat sheet, we'll give you links to the cheat sheet. We'll give you links to, all of the references that we used in the report. So,
yeah. So I will be sending an email with everything. And if you have any questions about the courses or anything, you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to answer honestly about my experience with the courses.
Yep. Everybody talk to Kristen. She'll get you hooked up with the courses.
All right. Bye, guys. Have an excellent day.
Thanks, everyone. Pleasure being here, Kristen. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Anytime.
Okay. We'll have you back then.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.